Today we're talking about solo hiking, solo camping, and how to be safe. So what we're going to be doing coming up is we're going to talk about what you should have on your person when you're by yourself for a day hike and or longer. We're talking about camping. It could be out of your car. We're going to be talking about bear attacks, guns, knives, bear spray. What should you have on you and why? And we're going to talk a little bit about, can you assess when someone's dangerous? Now, I want to let you know, besides the medical background and 40 some odd years of doing medicine, I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. A year after I got out of graduate school, I did a year with the suburban Chicago Police Department assessing officers who've been through PTSD. Also assessed for about 8 years doing forensic psych and assessing perpetrators. And we're going to talk about sociopaths and psychopaths. Is it the same or is it one? We're going to talk about, can you assess that when you're out there hiking? And will you be able to? And how, if you can't, how will that benefit you? All right, guys, let's get going. Because if you're solo camping, obviously solo by yourself, and you're camping out of your car or you're pitching a tent like this campground right here, and you look at my car and you see how it's parked, you want to have it parked so that the back obviously is towards your tent or your picnic table, and you then can get out quickly. But someone can easily then also pull in front of you and block your exit. So what are you going to do, or what could you do to minimize that risk? What you could do, and I'm not saying this is going to be 100% across the board, if you have a folding table or a folding chair, you can put that in front of your vehicle 3 to 4 feet, and it does reduce the risk. Think about it. If you got someone that wants to pull in front of you, they're less likely to pull in front of you if you have something blocking your car. It's just going to be unconscious. They're going to go, okay, I'm not going to park there. They're going to park down a little further. So that's one thing you could do. And if you have to leave in a hurry, just run that sucker over if it was that bad of a situation. Again, not 100%, but any little thing helps to increase your percentages. So one of the first things we're going to address is dead trees. It's been addressed numerous times. Dead trees in your area of camping, not a great idea. Wind, storms can have these puppies fall right on top of you, so you really want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Sometimes in a flooded terrain area next to a lake, it can be very difficult to do. There's a lot of dead trees around those areas, so you may have to move inland. It may cut into your vista, but man, you got to be safe. So that does happen. The bottom line is that you need to have fun. The purpose of this is trying to decrease anxiety. Being paranoid about everyone out there on the trail is just going to make you miserable. So how can you be cautious and hyper vigilant, but not paranoid and enjoy the outdoors? So the goal here is for you to chill and relax. What we're going to talk about are things that I think you need to be in your pack, and we don't increase the weight dramatically. We only talk about 4 or 5 things. I mean, clearly it's nice to have a tarp, and we've addressed some of those issues, and I'm going to put that down below. One of the things that's really important, if you are dependent on your glasses and you're nearsighted, what you should have is at least some duct tape, and I talked about a video in the past where you can poke holes in the duct tape and make you a pair of glasses to help with refraction and diffuse the light. They actually make a pair that you don't have to drop $500. It's really nice. For $1.50, you can get these glasses that will help you see, if you're nearsighted, to at least get back to where you belong, to your base camp or wherever. And these are really nice for $1.50. Now they're really cheap. They will break easily, but it's nice to have these in your pack as an extra pair of lenses, especially if you're dependent on your glasses. Whistles. So extremely important. Nevertheless, what we can do is we're going to go through 3 different types. This is a plastic Fox 40, and we have a metal one with the cork ball in it. Now the deal with that one is moisture will make that cork ball swell, and if it's raining, you're going to lose some volume on this. I like the Fox 40, I really do. Let's just hear the differences. Much shriller, and so you make the decision of which one you would like. So that is important to have. Flashlights, you want to have at least 2. You want to have them charged. You want to make sure they're charged before you go out. If they're not charged, you can always bring a charger. You're going to have a cell phone. Hopefully you'll have service. If you don't have service, then that brings into a whole new situation. But if you have a cell phone and you have flashlights that have to be charged, these are inexpensive. You have a charger. Make sure you attach your USB cable to it so it's always with you. All right. And this one is definitely solar charged, and you can charge this into the wall. So there's 2 options. This is a little heavy, but I have used it when the power has gone out, and I'm telling you, really helpful to have that in your pack. Duct tape. I like the fluorescent orange. You're lost. So stay put. You can cut off streamers, walk out 50, 75 yards in each direction, tape those streamers up in all directions. Because you're smart, you're going to tell your loved ones where you're going to be, when you're going to come back. You don't show up, they're going to be looking for you. This, by taping them off in 4 directions, is going to give the search party a larger range. So really, really helpful for a ton of uses on the duct tape. So that's important. Knives. Should you be carrying a knife? Absolutely, you should be carrying a knife. So I personally have a pocket knife of some type I carry with me lately these days. The Leatherman Charge Plus. It has a ton of utilities, very, very helpful. And I also have a fixed blade. This is a buck, and this rather large buck, and this is the Canadian Russell belt knife, which is my favorite go-to. So the knife in defending yourself, not advisable. Can't tell you the amount of times when I was working for the police department and doing corrections, people would come in and they would be injured because the knife was taken away from them. The knife also, you got to think about, what if you run across someone that's injured? This can be helpful in cutting off their pant leg, tending to them. So there are times when you're solo hiking and camping, which is really, really important, you may need that to take care of somebody else, let alone the obvious of firewood and other things that you might want to use your knife for. So that's important. One of the major dangers in solo camping and hiking is when you walk away from the camp and you're by yourself, and anymore, what's in the top 5 is falling and getting injured. Individuals wanting to take the selfie, wanting to show their friends, stick it on social media, they're not paying attention, they're backing up, they want to get that great pic, and they fall. God forbid they fall off of a ravine, or they trip and fall. So man, guys, be cautious with these selfies and throwing that stuff up on social media. Be really cautious, because that is a high incidence of injuries. Medical ailments. So let's talk about that. Really important. So I've talked about many times keeping meds in a little capsule. If you're going out for a day, have an extra day of your meds. If you're going out for a week, have 3 or 4 extra days of your meds. Certain meds you do not want to stop suddenly. If you're a diabetic and you're an insulin dependent diabetic, you can get little small coolers that you can keep your insulin in. Certain high blood pressure meds you do not want to stop suddenly. You want to keep those going, like beta blockers, Inderal, atenolol. If you're taking those sporadically for certain other issues, not a huge deal. But if you're taking those daily over time, that can be a real problem if you stop them suddenly, where you could get a heart arrhythmia and things go sour really, really quick. Anti-anxiety meds is another one. Someone's on Xanax and they've been taking alprazolam for years and they forgot it or they run out. You can literally have major confusion and mild psychosis like behavior by stopping an anxiolytic med quickly. So high blood pressure meds, thyroid medication, have all of your meds for chronic illnesses with you. And what's also important is before going out is to be in shape. Really important. Got to be in shape to some, especially when you get in our age range, 40s, 50s, 60s. Your mind may be thinking that you're 30, but I'm here to tell you your body is clearly not. So really important in solo hiking, camping, have your medication. I did some work with a well-known psychiatrist, written 4 or 5 books. He was good friends with Andrew Weil in Arizona. His name was Carl Hammershog. I lost this guy about 4 years ago. He passed away 3 years ago, maybe. Wonderful man. Worked a lot with Native American tribes and elders. Was very insightful. A Yale trained psychiatrist. And he tells a story that I'm going to share with you about. He was walking through a museum and this elderly lady in her 80s was just bouncing through the museum, smiling, in a great place. And he was able to strike up conversations with anybody. And he asked her, he said, I got to ask you a question. How old are you? She's 87. And he goes, this is what I do. I'm a psychiatrist. I work with Native American tribes, and I ask people questions a lot of times. In your opinion, what is the secret of life? And her response was her shoes. She was wearing tennis shoes. And he goes, what? I have no idea. What does that mean? Her shoes is what she attributed the longevity of life. And when you think about that from a medical aspect, when you walk, you increase your immune system. You move your lymph throughout your body. There is no pump for that, which helps with antibodies, so on and so forth. Hence, all of the research on the importance of walking and getting exercise. So solo hiking, hiking in general, really important for your health. Thought it was a cute story and an accurate story. All right, with that, we're going to go right into the issue of psychopathology on the trail. And this really hits home for a lot of women who are out there by themselves. And you're going to run across, eventually, you're going to kind of run across somebody that you may feel unnerved about. And so often we use biases, confirmation bias, anchor bias. Confirmation bias is that we research or we see something and we attribute that bias to our own experience. And you see someone with long hair and tattoos and looking funky and unkept, and immediately you're stereotyping that person for whatever. Happens all the time. Or you're walking and you stereotype somebody for their looks or what they're wearing. This is an everyday common occurrence. Plus, this culture is becoming excessively critical. We're critical of everything. In reality, the chances of you running into somebody is going to be very, very, very rare that is going to harm you. Very rare. So what can you do? Are you going to be able to assess that person in 5 to 10 minutes and figure out if they're sociopathic or not? No, you're not. So you need to approach each situation with a little bit of caution, obviously. And when you meet someone, at a party, wherever, we're constantly bringing our past experiences to that interaction all the time. So really important to look at that. For example, sociopath and psychopaths are basically the same issue. According to the DSM-5, which is the manual for diagnosing pathology, there is no diagnosis for that. It drops into antisocial personality disorder. Sociopaths can be charming, they can be engaging, and you're not going to be able to assess that in 5 minutes. One of the things you can do, if they ask you, are you alone, you can clearly, one, change that topic to, I just love being out here in the outdoors, and you can be somewhat evasive of the question. And the other thing you can do is you can say, I got a group coming, or I'm going to meet with a group, my husband's back at the car, I have to meet him, blah, blah, blah. The 1 in 1 million, if this person is a sociopath or has nefarious thoughts, yes, they're probably going to pick up on the lie. But there's nowhere you're going to go with that anyway. You're not going to whip this guy into submission. It's not going to happen. And I have read numerous on-site blogs in terms of different individuals and women solo camping where they run into people, and 99% of the time, these individuals have been caring, have been helpful, and there's been no problems. It's the 1 out of the million, and it's actually the people that you may know that turns out to be a problem situation, like the Gabby situation out in Jacksonville, Wyoming, where her boyfriend did her in. Really just a traumatic episode. So my point being, what can you do? You can definitely, you want to be cautious, but not paranoid. You want to be hyper vigilant, but not paranoid. Don't let it ruin your solo hiking. You can, like I showed you in the previous, video, you can basically back your car up at a camping spot so you have easy access out. Yes, someone could pull in front of you, but you got to think of all of your options. And that's really helpful. If any of my viewers have been in a situation out solo hiking or camping and it was really a bad experience, or you ran into somebody that you were very uncomfortable with, write down and tell me how you handled it. It'd be really helpful, and maybe helpful for other people. That would be good. So bears, guns, and bear sprays. What is the data and what is the experience? 3 types of bears: black bears, brown bears, and polar bears. Brown bears are going to be broken down into grizzlies and the Kodiak bear in North America. These stats are everywhere. There are people that live and breathe stats and research design. Some of them are very good. It's very easy to find this information out because there's literally tons of individuals that track this data. Let me say it again. Black bears do not kill more people than grizzly bears over the last 200 years. And when they do, which averages about 1 per year, those situations that occur, they usually occur, in the outdoors, about 80 to 82 deaths and fatalities from a black bear versus 92 from grizzlies over the last, what was that, 180 years, I believe. Polar bears, 7 deaths. 5 of those deaths by polar bears were in the wild. The other were in captivity in zoos. The data is all there, as well as the data of what you should use and carry with you. So this article right here is from Bear Hunting Magazine. There's another one out of the NRA, and the research shows time and time again that your number one, including hunting guides in Wyoming and Montana, they go to bear spray first. You want to get a good bear spray. This is UDAP Pepper Power Bear Deterrent. Comes with a belt sleeve. It is really one of the best you can get. And this is what you need to be carrying, some type of bear spray. Now, a lot of the guys out there that are hunting guides, they are doing both. They're carrying bear spray, and they're using a handgun and or a weapon of some type. But they're going to their bear spray. They highly advise it. Now, I know there's going to be situations where, what if the wind's blowing in your face, or what, blah, 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 and what if this happens? Well, as they point out into the one research article, very, very rare. So everything has to be aligned. A, you have to run into a bear. B, the bear has to be aggressive. C, the wind has to be blowing in your face, or it has to be a crosswind for this not to be working. So you think about that, and that definitely falls in the lower percentage. We're talking about percentage and odds here, all right? That's what we're addressing. In reality and with experience, you should be carrying both only if you're proficient with using a handgun. I strongly advise no one to be out there carrying a gun if you have not practiced and have not shot it. So let's talk about guns briefly. But before we jump into that, I want to mention the bear spray, by the way. I keep it in my car, and that can be used very effective for any perpetrator. So ladies and guys, you're out there solo, bear spray does not have to be used for just bears. Remember that. So this is a 22 long rifle Colt, and pretty well worthless when it comes to anything bear related. However, in the medical field, if someone gets hit by a 22 in the head, it causes one hell of a lot of damage. So this is the cartridge of a 22 that bounces around in the skull and can come out anywhere. Seen it happen at least a half a dozen times. Not a good outcome with a 22. However, terrible for a larger animal. Next, the 9mm. This is a SIG P365, and the 9mm is really kind of on the fence when it comes to bears. A lot of the guides and hunters I've talked to out west, they're using a 10mm, and it's just the millimeter, by the way, is the diameter of the shell. So this is a hollow point 9mm, and basically, since I'm not out there that often, this is what I carry. Next is, when I've talked to a lot of the guides, they're carrying a shotgun, a 12 gauge. This is a 20-inch deer barrel on here. It'll hold 5. The vast majority of states only want you to have 3 shells in there. And what they're bringing is they're bringing a deer slug, and you can see the size difference. And they're on a horse. They're going into the backcountry. They're having this with them. It weighs about 7 pounds. So those are the guns that they use a lot of the times. Is going to be the shotgun as well as a handgun. Now, most individuals are going to use a 357, a 44. Those can be transferred into mathematically millimeters. And ironically, the 357 is really not that, the lead is not that bigger than the 9mm. However, it is the amount of power and muzzle velocity, whereas a 357 is traveling about 2,200 feet per second. A 9mm, we're looking at about 1,200 feet per second. So as far as firepower, you're going to see a lot of individuals carrying a 357, 44 into the backcountry. Again, if you are not proficient, you have no experience, you should not be carrying a handgun. You definitely should be carrying bear spray. For wildlife photographers, individuals going out there, you have the bear spray. So one of the things I failed to mention, if you have a bear that is running, black or grizzly, I don't really care, and it's running at you at 30 to 40, 45 miles an hour, and you've got that handgun and you're trying to follow this bear to give it a shot, its head is moving vertically anywhere from 12 to 24 inches up and down, going 30 to 45 miles an hour. I tell you what, man, you hit that, I applaud you. That is amazing. So you're moving that handgun up and down, trying to get that shot off. That's a tough one. In closing, if you guys have some certain handguns you really like to use, tell me about your experiences with bears. I've had 2 close encounters with black bears. Both were my fault in getting too close. One came out of the brush. I had no idea she was going to come out in that area. So I would love to hear about that and give me some feedback. That would be great. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Careful of falling dead trees. Be careful where you camp. Have some of those necessities in your pack, even if it's a fanny pack on a day hike. Really important. The whistle, the duct tape, those, and the cell phone, the charger with the cable attached. Very, very important. All right, guys, keep your eyes on the rise and your face to the wind. We'll see you next time.